Hi, I'm Tom. This is Mina, and this is Kitty Help Desk. A little boy asked me why his cat didn't meow, and I thought that would be a good subject for a video because it's something that I don't think most people really realize, that cats don't naturally meow to one another as adults. Mothers and kittens will meow back and forth as a way to stay in touch and know where they are. That happens frequently, but once they're adults, cats really don't meow to one another. In fact, they tend to prefer very quiet communications because those communications are less likely to get them killed. So if there's a disagreement and they hiss at one another, only the two cats involved in that are going to hear it. A cat over the hill, or better yet, a wolf over the hill, is not going to hear that interaction and come running to get dinner. The same thing goes with purring or maybe some low growling. Those kinds of vocalizations are normal between adults. And there are some things that indicate that a cat is in estrus or that a cat is extremely distressed, but those are relatively short duration communications that really, in the case of being in distress, that communication is really intended to sort of minimize the length of the conflict, so that, you know, if I'm fighting with another cat and I start making these sounds, then both of us are in danger and both of us are very likely to be killed by a predator. So that's going to end the conflict a lot faster. Even though it won't resolve anything, it could come to an end faster. And that's just the way cats are. Now, many cats in our homes meow a lot, okay? And the reason why they meow a lot is because we positively reinforced that action sometime in the past. So when they did meow as a small kitten, when we first adopted them, they meowed. Or maybe even it started at the shelter when they would meow. Everyone would, oh, isn't that cute? You know, you give them attention, you give them affection, might even be giving them treats when they are meowing, when they ask for something. And by that, you are reinforcing that as a way to get something, okay? That can be good and bad. It's kind of fun that they want to talk to us in that way, right? But at the same time, if it starts happening at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's a little less fun. What happens is cats develop a sort of a repertoire of behaviors that get things. And when we clicker train them, and I have a video on clicker training I'll link to in the notes here, but when we clicker train them, we are adding new things, new behaviors to that repertoire, right? And so those things become sort of the go-to trial and error actions when they want something from us. I made the mistake. It was my mistake, and I'm living with it. But I made the mistake of training Miss Lucy to speak on cue in clicker training. And you can see that it's in that clicker training video I just mentioned.
Speak. Good girl.
And by reinforcing that behavior, she started vocalizing more, and then more, and then more. And Miss Lucy is a very hungry cat. She's had her daily caloric intake lessened in order to try to get her to lose some weight. And so she's thinking about food a lot every day. And so when she starts thinking about food, meowing at me has been one of her go-to behaviors. And so I've started reinforcing her now that when she gets fed, she has to sit quietly in order to get the food. And she has a new cue that is shh. And she's learning, she is adapting to it, but it's much harder to train a cat to not do something than it is to train them to actively do something. Mina has never been extremely vocal, and her voice is very, very high and squeaky, which is something that I also think is a partial answer to this question. Because in some cases, I think that cats are vocalizing at frequencies that we can't always hear. You've probably seen cats in videos or maybe known one yourself that look like they're meowing, but you don't hear any sound. But just because you don't hear the sound, that doesn't mean that there's not any sound. In many cases, cats can vocalize in a much higher register because they can hear in a much higher frequency range than we can. So they may actually be vocalizing in a way that another cat could hear, but they can't understand that we can't hear them. And so they may seem like they don't have a voice when they actually do. Whether or not you choose to reinforce your cat to speak, that's up to you. And I think it can be a lot of fun to have a cat who communicates with you, as long as they are not driven to ask for something all day, every day. Because at that point, it can become a real bit of a nuisance. But, for them to speak to you from time to time, I think it's sort of charming. And I think it's one of the ways that they wound their way into our hearts. Cats were basically brought into human civilization for a few reasons. One was that they killed vermin, and so it was good to have them around. If you were storing grain, having a cat stick around was a pretty good idea, so you'd probably encourage them to stick around. Even if they were wild animals, you might leave some food out so that they wouldn't, sort of wander off somewhere and go live somewhere else. But there's also the fact that their facial proportions are very close to that of a human infant. So we naturally feel like we want to care for them. But the interactions that they offer are really unique in the world of pets, in that they are highly autonomous animals that don't always acknowledge that they even need us. And to have them come for you and ask for things is sometimes very charming. So, it just really depends on your situation and your cat. Mina is a very quiet sort and never overdoes it on anything, and has been just a pleasure to have around her whole life. And, Lucy is a pleasure in a different way. She is much more interactive in some ways and can be much more stimulating to interact with than Mina, but each of them has their own, traits, and I love them both for who they are. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.